Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to today's rundown. Today, we are going to be talking about the highly anticipated Phantom Blade Zero. Phantom Blade Zero is a highly polished hack and slash action RPG which will be incorporating elements from the Souls-like genre. This is being published and developed by the China-based studio S-Game, and this is set to release on the PlayStation 5 and the PC. However, disclaimer, there is no definitive release date for this one as of yet, but developers at S-Game have reported that we should be getting this game at least by the end of 2025. Initially debuted at the PlayStation Showcase back in 2023 with its initial reveal trailer that showcased a highly polished and a very tight looking combat system, and it seemed to promise us within that trailer a very dramatized, near action movie-esque looking combat system. However, since its debut at the PSN Showcase in 23, we have received multiple new gameplay trailers, much more in-depth look at the combat system that they are promising, a further look at the art style of the game, and even some small story teasers that have been hinted and dropped throughout the trailers they have been feeding us. Much more. We're going to go over all of that in today's rundown. As said before, Phantom Blade Zero is a stylistic action RPG set within a dark and brooding world that mixes Chinese folklore, fantasy, and fast-paced cinematic action. It will take on a combat style that is somewhat similar to the recent Souls-likes that we have seen. However, it will lean much more into the action side of things with its fast-paced combat, and it will be much more forgiving with its difficulty. Phantom Blade Zero is your classic revenge quest. The protagonist that we are going to play as is known as Soul, and he is a highly respected assassin and enforcer for this powerful underground sort of group that is known as the Order. Soul has been wrongfully accused of murdering the leader of this secretive group he is a part of, and then he is essentially systematically hunted down by its members and his former companions, while you set out to wrong this right and exact revenge on the true culprit who framed you. And I feel like it is worth mentioning that the artistic vision for Phantom Blade looks absolutely amazing. I mean, with the gameplay trailers featuring some very unique looking world design with its dark and sort of gritty aesthetic, alongside some unique enemies and bosses that we have seen and that we have been shown within these trailers. In particular, which I'm going to put on the screen now, in the 2025 gameplay reveal trailer that you are seeing right now on the screen, he is shown fighting a boss that is some sort of like puppet master, and it just looks super unique and it just looks super awesome. We are expecting this to be a semi-open world due to the lack of confirmation we have on how the game map will be actually explored upon release. However, this speculation does come from folks who were able to get their hands on a playtest of this beauty back at 2024's Summer Games Fest. Players report that the areas of the game that were made available to them played similarly to a Souls-like, where they were sort of locked into a singular area that they could then freely explore. However, the main key difference that Phantom Blade Zero is seeming to go for is the depth and the design of the story progression itself. Phantom Blade Zero is a highly cinematic game where as you progress through the areas, you're going to be met with cutscenes and a more cinematic story progression compared to a traditional Souls-like. Aside from storytelling, Phantom Blade Zero's main focus seems to be its fast-paced, acrobatic, and even stylized combat system, which looks extremely promising and fun from what we have seen in the released footage, in my opinion. From looking at the footage, it looks like Phantom Blade Zero is taking inspiration from games like Devil May Cry and other similar titles when looking at its highly dramatized and high action combat sequences that are just beautifully choreographed and animated, as you can see in the gameplay that is being shown before you. Reportedly, the game will feature a large variety of weapons as well that we will be able to use as the player. It is reported from players who got their hands on a demo copy that us as the players will have access to a heavy longsword, a more traditional and balanced katana, and more fast-paced dual swords, as well as a long spear. On top of all of that, there will be a variety of ranged projectiles. As seen in the trailer, there is some sort of lion head cannon which shoots like fire at enemies, and there is reportedly also a long-range long bow that can be used to take out enemies from a distance. Also worth mentioning that the game will also feature options for some low-intensity stealth, similar to how we saw in Sekiro, how they incorporated stealth into their gameplay mechanics. It is reported that Phantom Blade Zero will have stealth similar to that. Now, I do not have as much information on this as I would like. However, from reports that I have read, apparently the story is going to include some sort of time-based system where the main protagonist, Sol, has only 66 days to exact his revenge before he will inevitably die. As I said before, I do not know the depth of this mechanic fully. I do not know if it's going to be a prominent gameplay feature similar to like a Majora's Mask, or if it's just going to be some sort of looming story element that doesn't really affect gameplay and story pacing. However, I still felt that this one was worth mentioning, as this is something that really caught my eye when brushing up on Phantom Blade. But overall, I think for me that the biggest standout feature in the game is just how the combat looks and how it plays. I think that the developer attention to detail and the beautiful synergy of movements alongside this sort of highly choreographed combat system that we have, that we are seeing within the game, is just a feat in itself. And I cannot say it enough that I feel like Phantom Blade Zero's combat system and its combat mechanics are going to be its greatest strength in the end. On top of all of the good combat stuff, it appears that there's going to be a decent amount of vertical movement as well. Players are reporting, and as we have actually seen within some of these gameplay trailers, that the vertical movement will be incorporated into certain areas of the game as a combat technique, where the environment is going to sort of set you up and you're gonna like sprint up a wall, or you're gonna run up a pillar as we saw in the gameplay trailer, and you're gonna jump off it and you're going to land a powerful aerial attack on your enemy. Alrighty, now we get into my favorite part of these videos, community feedback. Reading feedback from folks who have played the game demo made available to them at this year's Summer Games Fest, and I'm not gonna lie, the results are honestly just overwhelmingly positive. Players are reporting that the general combat has been designed to be more forgiving than a traditional Souls-like, and that the combat system and controls of the game are extremely well designed and intuitive, and that it is reportedly very easy to get into the flow of combat and execute combos and chain attacks and all that sort of good stuff. The difficulty seems to be received differently by different players as well. Some players are reporting that combat is challenging yet rewarding, in that you have to maybe attempt a boss more than once, but it never feels like you're hitting a brick wall as it does with other games that fall into the Souls-like category sometimes. On the other hand, some players are reporting that they feel the game is just way too easy for them on normal difficulty, and that the difficulty needs to be turned up in order for them to fully enjoy it. Now, obviously, you know, difficulty is subjective to the players, so we'll have to just see upon release how difficulty scaling impacts gameplay, and, you know, obviously as you play it, just find your own groove and what works for you. But as I said earlier in the video, it really does appear that Phantom Blade will definitely be leaning into the more quote-unquote action side of combat versus focusing just on grueling difficulty level, due to the emphasis players have put on how intuitive it is just picking the game up and how nice and easy it feels just playing through the game. Not easy as in difficulty is easy, but like how the game itself controls is very inviting and very easy and intuitive. So yeah, I mean, player feedback is really all good stuff, which I feel is rare nowadays, I must say. So this one makes me even more excited for the official release of this one. Overall, I personally am very excited for Phantom Blade Zero's release, whenever that maybe, hopefully, sooner than later. The artistic and the sort of cinematic combat system is really my biggest excitement with this one, because I feel, especially nowadays with the AAA games market, that it is not often that that a game comes around that looks like it has its just chiseled, defined, unique style that really separates its gameplay mechanics and its combat apart from other major AAA releases. My one major hope, my one major want for Phantom Blade Zero is that the story is intriguing and that it is something that I can really sink my teeth into. Personally, I am just drawn to games with immersive stories that I can get interested in and that I want to know what happens next while I am playing. And so that is my one major want for Phantom Blade, is I really hope that it can ace the story on top of everything it already has going for it. And I think that Phantom Blade, it has the makings of a good story. I mean, the whole Revenge Quest arc, there's this sort of strange, mysterious time limit that is being imposed on the main character. I just really hope that S Games can deliver a powerful and intriguing plot alongside, their sort of beautifully crafted combat system that we've seen, because I think that when both things come together, it would make the game so much better, that it's not just this visual flair piece, that it's not just something to look at and it doesn't just feel good to play it. You actually want to know what happens next. Alrighty, so once again, that is Phantom Blade Zero, a highly anticipated cinematic hack and slash action RPG that is being developed by the Chinese-based studio S Game, that is hopefully coming to us before 2025 is out for the PS5 and PC. And as always, to stay updated, make sure to stay tuned in, as I will be following this game's progress and keeping all of you updated in the process. As always, my friends and family, I appreciate all of you guys so much for watching today's rundown. If you enjoyed it, please consider going down below and dropping a like. And if you want to stay up to date, make sure you are subscribed and that you've got those notifications on so you can be informed with all the latest game release information. I want to hear all your thoughts, all of your opinions, all of your hopes, all of your dreams regarding Phantom Blade Zero. Yell at me in the comments and let's talk about it. Are you excited for this one? Are you going to be playing it upon release? What are your hopes? What are your wishes? What looks most exciting to you when looking at Phantom Blade Zero? Is it the combat? Is it the weird mysterious story? Is it the setting? Whatever it might be, I want to hear all about it down below. Yell at me in the comments and we're going to talk about it. All right, enough rambling. Thank you guys so much for watching once again. You know who it is. It's ITA Games. Stay tuned in if you want to be up to date on all your current release date information about your favorite games. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.